Okay, this is the finale video of the series, What It Takes to Live Well, and the Principles of Living Well. And on my board, I've included 4 of the final things to talk about, and I've talked about these before. The supremacy of reason being, you have to bow to reason. You have to bend your will to it. You really don't bend your will to it, you align your will to reason. In other words, you ask yourself questions such as, hey, I want a whole lot of money and security, what do I do to get that? And then you can maybe look at some possible avenues, like one would be bank robbery, which involves a lot of risk and stuff, and then you would say to yourself, well, it looks like I could get the quick money, but I won't get the security because the cops will always be looking for me. So, you utilize your reasoning to figure out how best to move forward. And each step isn't necessarily correct and perfect, but you're self-correcting. That's what reason is a means of self-correction, and allows you to keep moving forward and keep getting better through time when you integrate your experiences. And I talked earlier about how it is that reason is that one thing that should trump other things such as feelings or faith, or being coerced or threatened. Reason should be more important. Let's say it is more important. I'm talking about a fact, not about what ought to be. It just is more important. So we know reason is man's means of survival. That's the second principle. And I put here thinking. Reason, you have to think in order to reason. So you have to engage in some mental activity. And it turns out your mental activity has to be linked up to your physical activity. It has to inform your actions in order for the thinking to actually matter and help you succeed in your life. And later on in the video, I'll show how initiated force, severs the tie between thinking and action, and how that guarantees that you'll suffer and eventually die. It guarantees it for human beings. Okay. Moving from reason is your means of survival. And again, before in the videos, I explained the difference between animals and plants and humans. Animals and plants kind of automatically do what they need to survive. A plant will automatically grow taller than other plants in order to get the sunlight it needs to live. It just automatically does it. And man learns what to do in order to continue surviving and in order to become better and happier in his life. He uses that extra step of mental deliberation that is not necessary for the animals and for the plants. And then the actualization of the potential in one's life is one's moral standard. A moral standard being how you would judge the merit of actions. And you can judge them by different standards. And I showed in one video about how those different standards stack up and how they jive with being a human and being happy and promoting your own life, okay? Which is not necessarily, it is a selfish thing to do, but that's not necessarily bad. The selfishness may involve, I talked about the selfishness, it may involve loving other people, sharing with other people, having children and loving and caring for them, acts of nicety, just being nice and kind and generous and all that can be part of being selfish. In fact, it feels good to do it, so therefore it's selfish. And I showed in one video how honesty is it's a selfish virtue, because what you're getting from honesty when you practice it, you're earning the trust of other people, and that trust, it turns out, is really in your benefit. It's in your long run, long range, wide range, long run benefit. Okay, for a human being to have the trust of others is really cool, and you want to work on it and keep it by being honest. That's how you do it. There's no shortcut. You can't just you give people a magic potion and they'll trust you. You have to show them with your actions. And a virtue is nothing other than a habit that you developed and you kept going. You keep the habit going and it becomes part of your character, and that is a virtue. That's how you gain it, just by doing things repeatedly. And then we're going to get to individual rights are absolute. And in order to understand rights, I think it's really important to understand how they could be violated. What is like an antithesis to rights? And I'm going to talk about the initiation of force, where humans, or like say one human, initiates force on another human, whether it's for the other human's benefit or not. We're going to see what happens when you do that. And instead of just using humans, I've got a comic that I made of aliens, an alien mother and child. And I guess I'll show it first, and then I'll just read it to you. There's a panel, so there's 5 panels. Okay. First panel. Little boy says to his mom, "Mommy, can I have some humans as pets? I want to see what happens when I initiate force on them." And the mom, she says, "Okay, dear, but just a couple of them until you learn how to handle them with care." She lets the child have some humans as pets. "How's your little experiment going, Pumpkin?" This is the mom checking in on the child after he's got the humans as pets. "Well, the humans seem to be doing fine on their own, but when I initiate force, they always suffer and die." And so now the kid's kind of sad. It's got humans in kind of like an ant farm. It's a castle, is looking down on them, messing with them every now and then, initiating force and whatnot. So the mom says, "Well, what do you suppose the force is doing in order to accomplish this bad result?" And the kid's pretty sly. Watch this. He says, "It's like it makes their minds inefficient or even irrelevant, severing a needed tie between thought and action." Mom, she knows the kid's onto something. She says, "Hey, can you give me an example?" Kid says, "Yes." And he's pointing right there. He says, "Yes. There's this one that I call Charlie over there. And he was in the process of building up personal talents and saving money for a future. But when I initiated force on him," and the mom says, "Let me guess. He could still think about preparing for a future, but could not act on his thoughts." And the kid, he's happy. Mom understands. He says, "Yes." He says, "Thinking no longer had the positive effect it was having on his life. It looks like humans require the ability to act on thoughts in order to survive and be happy." Okay, so what he did with his experiment is he discovered that, if you leave humans alone, if you let them act on their thoughts, if you let them get better over time and plan for a future and build personal talent and stuff like that, that they tend to survive and they tend to become happier over time. But when you don't allow their thoughts to inform their actions, when you choose their actions for them from the outside, then the humans don't do so well. And so I'm going to try to depict that now. I'm going to pretend to be one of the humans captured by the alien family and put in that little castle. And let's say I was a human and I've got a bowl of imaginary food, and I'm gonna try to eat the food, right? But the alien child is initiating some force on me. Here I've got just a belt tied around. And this force is going to prevent me from acting on my own self-determination. Now I know I need food. I can feel the hunger pains, and I'm the best one in the world to know whether I need food or not. I'm the one person where that hunger strikes first, and it's easiest for me to know what I need to support my life. Okay, and now I'm going to try to go ahead and eat while force is being initiated on me. Okay, so I've got the spoon. I'm going to try to bring it to my mouth, and I can't. It won't come up to my mouth because of the bondage that I've got here, this belt that's tied around my arm. I'm not able to eat when I need to, when I know I need to. I'm not able to engage in self-determination. I'm not able to take the actions required for my own survival. I can think about the actions that I need to take, but in that case with the initiated force, I couldn't act on the thoughts. So I could know I'm hungry. Force doesn't, you can't force a mind to just not know things or to believe things that aren't true, but you can force a body. You can physically force a body to act in a way that's separate from how the mind is thinking. And in doing so, you violate rights, and human suffering and death can occur when you do that. So this brings me to the last point, which I promised in the last video to talk about, and that's the difference between liberty or freedom and license. It turns out that liberty or freedom is the absence of is acting in the absence of initiated force, whereas license, where you just run roughshod over other people, leaving a trail of bloody corpses in your wake, by definition is forceful. License, the reason we have the concept of license is to differentiate it from freedom. Freedom being that sphere of action where you go about your business without initiating force on other people. Other people being, the freedom is a reflexive principle. All humans will have or need to have it, and should have it. It is right for humans to be free, and I kind of explained or showed how with just a simple bringing food to your mouth, whether you can do it or not. But the having a right to freedom, or the ability to act on it, to exercise it, that principle extends way beyond just eating food in front of you. Like, how did I get the food in the first place? Well, I may have been engaging in work. I may have been employed. Maybe I was just a farmer making my own food grow out of the ground. And in order for me to plan for that future and that when I need to eat, I need to be able to keep that food that I grow. So that's a property right. That is, I need to have some property in my life. It's right and good for me to do that. Why? So that I can act for a future, so that I can support myself, survive, because life is self-sustaining action. I need to do that. Nobody else can do it for me. Nobody else could always be there for me, always telling me what I needed, when I'm hungry, when I should be eating. As adults, we're too separate from each other in order to be able to get away with that. So initiating force on adults is always wrong. It's different from retaliation of force, where you defend yourself, but the initiation, where you just start out by being forceful, you just try living by being forceful, that is wrong all the time. So that makes it an absolute, that it's wrong to force other people to do things. Why? Because they need to be thinking, and you need to be able to act on your thoughts. And if I think I'm hungry, I need to be able to bring this spoon to my mouth. That's the easiest example, but it goes into a broad array of actions that you should be allowed to take, and you should be in charge of in practicing your own self-determination, self-fulfillment, growth, all that stuff, of which you are the best judge. You're not a perfect judge. You don't always know what's best for you, but you're the best person on this planet to know what's best for you. And we need to use the concept of rights in social situations to acknowledge that fact that your thinking is so very important to you for your survival. That's what rights accomplish, is the acknowledgement of a metaphysical fact a fact of reality that a human's thoughts are absolutely essential to their survival and to their happiness. Okay, thank you.